What's going on, everybody? Ed0626 here, bringing you For Honor gameplay, something I haven't brought you guys in a couple months. And I really enjoyed this gameplay here, dude. I don't know if it was the team that we were playing up against, they were just bad, which I think was the case, because I have another gameplay with this similar team that we just absolutely kicked the shit out of for most of the match, or most of the matches we played. And I somehow went 10-1, so that's pretty shocking on my part, because I'm usually not that good at this game. But anyway, that's something you guys can enjoy in the background. So I want to start this video off by prefacing that I am a massive fan of combat sports, whether it would be MMA, kickboxing, or boxing, or pretty much anything. I mean, I'll usually watch fights during the I'll watch fights on Monday on DVR or whatever, and just hang out, watch it, catch up on podcasts, because half the time for me, half the time you don't need to actually listen to the commentary to know what's going on. It's pretty much all self-explanatory of what's going on in front of you. Different story for a different time. But I've been thinking about this for a while, ever since it was really much implemented a very long time ago, when UFC introduced the idea of bringing champs to the table. Basically what a champ is, for those of you who don't follow combat sports, is essentially a fighter that can fight in one weight class. It has a championship, so say it's lightweight and middleweight. So say 170 pounds, he has the championship. Guy, a fighter has that title. Then he moves up in weight to middleweight, where he would basically fight for a title somehow. Maybe to make some big pay-per-view bucks and whatnot. And he basically would just what he'll basically do is he'll fight for the title, and if he wins, he becomes champs. He becomes the champ of both, lightweight and middleweight. So that happened the first time, to my knowledge. It happened the first time with Conor McGregor and Eddie Alvarez with that fight, because I believe, if I remember correctly, Conor McGregor was the featherweight champion, and then he faced off against Eddie Alvarez, who was the lightweight champion at the time, and defeated Alvarez in stunning fashion. Everyone went crazy, blah blah blah. It was the first time an MMA fight had taken place in MSG, Madison Square Garden in New York, because for some reason MMA was banned in New York. I don't fully understand that, but that was the first time we've seen it. Since then, we've seen it countless other times. Amanda Nunes, another UFC fighter, is holding two titles in two different women's divisions. I believe she's holding the bantamweight and featherweight championships. And Bellator MMA, some people might be groaning when I say that name who are UFC purists, but Bellator MMA has also done this in the past as well, in the past as well, and present, with Ryan Bader becoming both the light heavyweight and heavyweight champion of the world for that promotion. Now, I personally am not a huge fan of champs in MMA. I think it's stupid. I don't like the idea of champions holding up their division. Maybe there's a guy that's been on a 3 or 4 fight win streak. He's ranked number 2 or 3, or not even 2 or 3, 1 or 2. Number 1 contender for the championship, and here he is, waiting for a title fight for basically for a guy that is not going to fight in his division for a couple of months. So this guy's sitting on the back burner. In the meantime, if he takes another fight, he's essentially going to if he loses his fight, he most likely loses his number 1 contendership. So I'm not a fan of champ fights, because I don't like the idea of champions holding up, their original division. At least relinquish the title. That's the other thing I don't like. I really can't stand, if you're gonna fight in another division, just relinquish the title you have. I know pay-per-view buys are gonna, really matter in this sort of deal, but something about it, to me, it's just boring. To me, it's boring. It's boring I'm sure it's boring for the fighters who are in some of these divisions, that have to wait for their shot because, their champion is fighting in other weight divisions. I also feel the same way about Superfights. I'm not a huge fan of Superfights in MMA, and I always will say that I wish some promotions like the UFC would make MMA more of a spectacle again. And when I mean make it a spectacle, I don't mean like make it a spectacle with fights, as I absolutely get destroyed there by that guy. I don't want it to be a spectacle of fights. I want it to be a spectacle in presentation. Like UFC back in the day used to have pay-per-views where there's a shit ton of pyros going off, fireworks, all that shit. It was really cool, and the pay-per-view fights in itself were spectacles because back in the day you had guys like Tito Ortiz and Chuck Liddell fighting on pay-per-view. It was like one of the most epic heavyweight rivalries of all time at that period of time. Then of course, they moved it to a more sports-oriented deal, which I understand, but to me, when I look at Superfights now, it's the same way I feel about, champs. I feel like, some guy wants to get a title fight, and he can't do that because, his champion is either fighting in a super fight, or he's fighting in another title match. I don't know, to me, it's not fair for the fighter that's like trying to win a championship. And for me, it's boring because you have the whole deal with Donald Cerrone and Conor McGregor. Pretty much Conor McGregor, all he is now is a super fight machine and a moneymaker machine because of that. And I'm not saying I don't hate that of him. I mean, that's how he makes his money. That's good for him. He fights like once every 2 years for this type of shit. But then you have the people make the argument, or people bring into the conversation, oh, Conor McGregor should fight for this title and this title. So explain to me how one super fight earns him some sort of title opportunity. I don't see how that works. Anyway, guys, I wouldn't say it's my rant, but it's just something for you guys to think about who are fans of MMA and combat sports and whatnot. If you agree, let me know. If you disagree, also let me know and tell me why you disagree. I don't know, something about it over the last couple of years since it's been implemented has really bothered me in terms of the sport of MMA and all that. So, that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all on the next video.